if you could go back to that version of yourself on your wedding day, knowing everything you know now about life and loss and raising this family, what's the one thing you really wanted, like wish you had stopped stressing about?
So him and I have had conversations about this because coming from a Hispanic background, both of us, family is really important, right? So we both were so worried trying to make our families happy that sometimes it affected us and our happiness. And it also several times made us wonder if we had made the right decision in being together.
We started on our knees, had no light. Then we found our way to church. God got our ways and said right. You pulled us out the dirt. Now we're walking in our purpose, not just shopping in vain. And calling our Holy Father, staying away from the lies, 'cause you taught us how to apply. We love the way you do it. Yeah, you did it, and you did it. When the road got rough, you pulled us through it. You always do it. Yeah, you did it. Yeah, we love the way you do it. Yeah. Walk a little different by Avenue. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Different by Avenue. I'm Dee, and I'm here with my girl Bree, and also honored to be sitting across from Lena today. Lena, thank you for being here with us.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for having me.
Is the National Day of Prayer. And when Dee and I were talking about who we wanted to speak with about the long call and the power of prayer life, Lena was the person on our list. So let's open in prayer. Lord, we thank you for the mentors and the elders in our community who have walked the path before us. We lift up every marriage and relationship listening to this right now. Give us the endurance to stay when it's hard, the wisdom to listen more than we speak, and the humility to be peacemakers in our homes. Amen.
Amen. So, Lena, I know you've seen the world change, and you've kept your covenant solid, and so we're excited to kind of tap into your wisdom today. I think first, please give us an introduction, who you are, how long you've been married, so we know, why we need to be listening to your advice, and like a synopsis, and then we can kind of pick your brain.
Okay. So, my name is Lena, and I've been married for 24 years, almost 25 years this year.
Yay.
We Yes, we dated for 5 years before we got married, but we did break up a couple times. And then
Okay.
and then my husband's like, "Okay, like we can't keep playing this game. Let's get married." And we have 3 kids. I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
It's been a long road, and 25 years. I don't know what I had for breakfast yesterday. So to be able to, we're pulling some memories out of the the deep back of the drawer. You are looking at social media like, I want this fairy tale wedding, and it's going to be absolutely perfect. What's the reality in comparing your path and what you see now and staying together and being together for so long? What was picture perfect, or what was nowhere near like Instagram worthy?
Okay, so the first thing I knew that when we got married, God was very important to me, and that he had to be a part of our life. So although my husband's faith was not as strong as I thought mine was, he did believe and he would come to church with me if I went to church. Right? So that was one thing. And I had to go. He didn't like the church that I liked. So I compromised and I went to the church that he liked, although I didn't like that church as much, but just so we could be there together, right? Because that was important to me. We Throughout our whole marriage, God has been an essential piece. We before any important decision, we pray. We pray about it, and we have taught our kids that as well. So I think that having God in our life is really like the glue that has helped us work through, because even in the hardest times when I think, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore, we've made it. When we got married, I came from a typical Hispanic family. Like, I never traveled with him, never slept over, never did anything. So I left from my house to our house. He had lived on his own. And so I was just used to the way my mom did things. So I was going to continue doing things like my mom did. For example, before bed, the kitchen had to be spotless. There could be nothing left. And he would be ready to go to bed. And I made dinner and I would expect him to help clean up the kitchen. And he was like, no, I'm tired. And I'm like, but I made dinner, but I'm tired. I'll do it in the morning. And I'm like, what? So those, like, that was a clear memory. Like, that was one of our like biggest fights. Like, having to adjust and come to terms with what worked for us, because I was used to what I did. He was used to what he did, and making those adjustments. So, it wasn't so pretty at the beginning. A lot of people think when you get married, oh, you're in love, everything's perfect. But no, for us, it was a really hard adjustment to move in together and decide what was important. Um, but I would say, it took a couple years to finally like feel like we were understanding each other. We were in a good place, but then we had kids, and that's a whole different, ball game, because then it comes out again. But along the way, we made adjustments. There was things that I felt very strongly about, and I wasn't going to give up. And I have to say, he's more lenient. He's more like he's more the peacemaker. So I'm the stronger one. But I have to say that when he feels very strongly about something, he will voice it. And so then I'm like, let me listen, to see what his point is. So I think that has helped, because he doesn't fight me on a lot of things. I know some couples struggle with that because they both want to be in control. We don't have that issue too much. So I think that has helped.
I've always heard that the first year is the hardest, and I can attest, yeah, that's hard. And then year 7, the whole 7-year itch thing. What's your take on that, Lena?
So for us, 7 years, we were when the kids were young, sorry. And it was really hard because I came from a family that we did everything together. And so he didn't. He's like, well, if my friend from work invited me to happy hour, I'm going to go to happy hour. And I'm like, well, I just worked. We have 2 small kids. Like, you should be home with us. That was probably our most challenging part in our marriage. So around that mark, and there was many times that I did think like maybe we don't need to be together, because I don't want to fight him on this, because our family should be a priority. And in his mind, he felt we were a priority, but a different way from what I felt. So I would agree that about that mark was difficult for us.
Is it like a period of like relearning because each person has like grown differently, or, just small things that have developed over time?
I mean, for me, it was more about like I said, our kids were little. So it was like another adjustment period, and we were not agreeing on how things should be. I don't think I really felt anything else other than we're not agreeing on things for the kids or how our family should be.
It's another like compounded problem. So you may have figured out this stuff, but now here's another kid, and here's just a toddler running around and a newborn in your hand. That just fries you to your core, and then now you have to explain that to someone else. I say this as like I'm literally in the depths of toddler chaos. Like just feeling like my whole brain has been functioning as a mom, and then you want to come in and tell me no, I'm making something up. You should be using the green fork. I'm like, no, I want to use the blue one. I've been doing this all day. Don't come at me now.
And then they want to say too, but you're the one that's dealing with it all day, and they want to come and change everything.
Yep. Yeah. I wanted to only add some levity to that, because I feel like it's what is it? Your taste buds change every 7 years. That I just wonder if the 7-year itch has something to do with just biologically something going on in your body. There's a cycle to it where it'll change and update over so many years. So I wonder if your taste buds have changed and you're like, I don't know if I like this flavor as much right now. I gotta feel like this is the right flavor of ice cream I actually want.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, there have been a few times where that's. I mean, it's been almost 25 years, so we've gone through those 7 years
A few
3
times.
times. Yeah. I'm not trying to be like our marriage is perfect, because it's not. It's not at all. But our love is very, very strong, and I think that really has helped. No, it wasn't like, oh, I think this could work. No, like, I mean, he said at the beginning, like, yeah, we had problems before, but really, because of the love, like we've worked through it. And when I'm ready to give up, he's like, no, let's still work on this. We have something good. Or vice versa. I've been like, I'm not happy with this situation anymore. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. And I have to say, I think it's been more me than him. There's been a couple times where he has been, like down about how we run things, or my strong personality. Like, sometimes he gets a little tired of me being so overbearing. But so I think that really has helped, because whenever I'm ready to give up, he wants to keep working.
One is down at the moment, the other one picks them up, and then vice versa.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Once during a phone call, I actually had a guest where it started off where she was like, "Oh yeah, we have 2 rooms," and I was like, "Okay." And she was letting me know that her husband was going to be in one room and she was going to be in another, and I was like, "Okay, it's none of my business. Sounds good." And she's like, "Well, do you want to know why?" And I'm like, "Sure, let me know why." And she's like, "Oh, because we need separate bathrooms," and I was like, "All right." Sounds good to me, I guess. That's what you want. And I was like, "So how long have you guys been married?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, we've been married 50 years." And I said, "Well, how'd you make it that long?" She said, "Separate bathrooms." And I was like, makes perfect sense. You know how much would be resolved if Bo and I had separate bathrooms? I didn't have to worry about his toothpaste being where it is or his beard shavings being in the sink. I think that would solve a lot of issues. So I'm gonna have to invest in that whole situation. Separate bathrooms.
But in my case, I would still have to clean up his area, so I'd still be upset.
Oh, man. That's where you just close the door, Lena, and pretend like it doesn't exist. You just close that door.
His bathroom. And for me, I think it's not so much the bathroom, it's the fridge. Like, this is my food. I want the leftovers. Don't I want the last ice cream. I need my own fridge. I think that would solve actually some more problems on my side. But okay, like what's your secret then? It's not separate bathrooms. So what's your this made a wild difference in the way that we live together?
So I think for us, from the beginning of our marriage, when I would be upset, like I'd want to leave, like not necessarily the house, but like not be in the room with him, not be in the same bed as him. Like we need to, even if we're like upset, we need to sleep together. Like we need to talk about it. And for my part, like for me, it's very strong for the family to be together. I know that, now, there's a lot of people that, like, they do their own trips, they do their own things. That doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for my husband either. I mean, we're together, so we enjoy our company. So we like to do things together. I mean, I'm sure there's circumstance, like we have our kids in sports and things like that. So we've had to divide, for a few things, but overall, like for important things, family get-togethers, vacations, things like that, we do them together. And I think that's worked for us in staying close and working through things, because
Does it with like alone time or the me time or a lot of the stuff with like you need to work on yourself. Do you find that that's still doesn't work to have that split, or is that's a separate category?
well, we do, like, for example, I didn't understand it, but like when we first got married, my husband want to watch TV by himself, and I'd go in another room and read a book, because that's what I like to do. And I didn't get it, but he would tell me, like, I need our time alone. It didn't necessarily mean that he had to leave the house, but he did need his space. But it also helps, I think, that, because I'm at home and then I'm doing things with the kids and I volunteer, and he's at work. So now the time that we do have together, we do want to be together. We give each other space that way, but not necessarily like take a day trip, unless it's like, like sometimes his companies that he works with, they do fishing tournaments, things like, I'm not saying that we never separate, but like I said before, for important vacations and things like that, we do it together.
So that same guest, she did say on a deeper level, basically, like one of the keys is you guys have to take turns being peacemakers, right? It can't be the same person each time, but you'll have to take time.
Yes.
So in how do you know when it's like your turn to be the bridge builder and when to stand your ground?
I think in my case, it's easier than some of the couples that I know, because my husband is very easygoing. So for the most part, I'm the one that's like, okay, this is where we're going on vacation. This is, we have this amount of money, because I'm the one that does the finances. So we have this amount of money. We need to wait to buy this, or, this is not a priority. But every so often he will say, I want to do this, or, this is important. When he does, I actually, I'm like, oh, okay, must be very important for him to speak up about it. So I will listen. That doesn't mean I always agree. So sometimes, we have to each prove our point to see, who has a better point or how we can make it work together. But yes, if it's something that he really, really feels strongly about, I will listen, because he normally doesn't fight me on things. So that's worked for us.
Yeah, the only thing I would think is I'm trying even myself to determine, is that really going to make or break a difference in name the topic? So like he says green fork and I say blue. What is that actually going to do to me? Is this me just being like, no, I want the blue fork? Or is this just, hey, let me give that to him because he's not maybe feeling like he's been included, or he's not feeling like he's having a say in this specific category. That's his input, and trying to exactly like pray and say, what is the real problem in whatever this argument is it actually the green and the blue, or is this him not feeling like he's around enough for this? In that case, is he feeling like, oh, I'm not having a say in how my son is being fed, I would like to be a part of this? Okay, green fork it is.
I have to say, perfect timing. Always God's timing, right? Because I just watched an episode of Abbott's Elementary, and like the main character and the guy that she's been pining over this whole time, they're together, right? But in this episode, they're trying to figure out where do they want to go on vacation. Well, they can't necessarily agree on whether to drive or fly. And it kind of reminded me of Bo and I, because I'd be like, I'm going to fly and just get there. And Bo's like, well, we need to save money. Let's drive, right? But they end up breaking up. And then they talk to their wise counsel, which is like, some other teachers in the school. She's talking to the older lady and he's talking to the janitor, the guy. And they're basically like, okay, well, what are you truly fighting for? What is it that you truly want that's going to, what is the point? And so they get back together, right? They're talking and they're like, okay, well, see, for me, it's about, I just want to spend time on the vacation, not getting to the vacation. And his stance was, okay, yes, I want us to spend time. That's the whole point. But I don't want us to have to spend all our savings to, make it there quicker. So they were able to compromise and all of that. But it was like, okay, the root of the thing was, what are you fighting for? What's the one thing that you truly need to make it a vacation for you? And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I need to use that going forward."
Finding
Yes.
that is the
Yes.
hard part.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. And also, maybe taking turns. Last time we did this, like I myself, I like road trips, but I don't like to drive. So my husband doesn't really like to drive, and he's the one that ends up driving.
No.
So we try to do like road trips sometimes, and then cruises, because he rather a cruise because it's no work. It's like you get there, you leave your bags, and you relax
That's it.
from that moment
Yeah.
on. So we compromise.
That's I like your husband in that. I'm a cruise lady. I hate road trips. Sorry. I don't want to sit in a car.
Well,
If
I
there
mean,
was
I
trains, like different story. Like I like the travel, but I want to get up to go to the bathroom and like have food ready for me. Like I don't want to I don't want to sit in a car. My question goes a little deeper. If you could go back to that version of yourself on your wedding day, knowing everything you know now about life and loss and raising this family, what's the one thing you really wanted, like wish you had stopped stressing about?
so him and I have had conversations about this, because coming from a Hispanic background, both of us, family is really important, right? So we both were so worried trying to make our families happy that sometimes it affected us and our happiness. And it also several times made us wonder if we had made the right decision in being together, because his family wanted his attention, my family wanted my attention, and we were trying to make them happy, and we were the ones at home arguing about making them happy. And it took many, many, many years. And it started where we started saying, we're fighting, and what about us? What about what we want? And then by 2020, we spent so much time on our own, and we're like, wow, like we're not arguing that much. This is
Everything's
nice. Like
nice.
we're doing what we want to do and not worrying about them. And so I wish I would have known that before, and from the beginning been like, okay, it's you and me. What is our plan? I'm sorry for them. We love them, but what do we want? You and me. Uh, yeah, I think that would have
As
saved
simple
us
as
a
that, but
lot of
it's
hurt.
yeah, because it's not, and that's it's not that simple to just lay it
And we
out like
both have
that.
parents, one parent or the other that are very strong and they fight. They're like, oh, well, if, why do you get to be with their family? What about us? And, why are you always going on vacation with them? And what about us? So, but, at the end of the day, like I said, it took that many years, but our life has changed so much since we started putting each other and our family as a priority above anybody else. Because at the end of the day, it is us, right? We're the ones that are in it. We're the ones that are, you know, running around with the kids trying to figure out what dinner is, if the other one's tired or sick or like, we're the ones that are in it together.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How has your prayer life changed from when you were a newlywed to now? Does the way you pray for your husband evolve over the years as they go by?
Yes, definitely. So when we, first got married, it was more about praying for us, our decision, what was best for us. And in the more recent years, I have started to pray more for him and us. Before it was just like an us. Now I do pray for him, especially I would say since I'm at home now. I wasn't always at home. I did work before, with the two older kids. I stopped working with the younger one. And so I do pray for him like um for work, like to for him to, be the best version of himself, for him to be recognized, also to strengthen our relationship. So I would say that I do focus more on him as an individual now and still us, but before it was just about us. I didn't think of him as an individual or pray for. We've always prayed together for the important things, like, if we're going to move, is this going to be better for our family? If he's going to change jobs, is this going to be better for our family?
Now, when you get your answer from God, what does that normally sound like or look like for you? Like, how do you know, like, okay, yeah, this move is right for our family?
So I struggle with this because I feel like I'm so, like, I don't know, stubborn, or I'm like sometimes like, God, please, like, black and white, I can't read these signs. So I think in several instances it's just kind of things have just shifted and put the right thing right in front of us. So for example, the last big thing that happened is he changed jobs in January. He changed companies. And I had been telling him for probably a couple years that I didn't feel that he was being appreciated at his job. Like, he had so much more potential and they weren't really recognizing it. And he would say, "No, they're good to me. I'm happy." So finally, out of the blue, he had a meeting after work or training, like on a new product, and he didn't want to go to this one. And he ended up going, and there was a younger guy that had worked with him years ago, but like as an intern. And he remembered him, and his dad owns a construction company. And he's like, "Dad, like, we need to hire, my husband." And so they started talking to him that night, and he came home and he was like, I got a job off. We didn't make this decision overnight. It was several weeks. And when he went to his old job, and so when he went back to his other company and he was about to finish his project at the moment, and he asked, "Well, what's next?" He's been working with them for 7 years and they've had
Always.
projects back to back. And all of a sudden there was nothing. And then when he spoke on a deeper level to the new company that he's working for, they were able to prove that they had this many projects. And then some of the people he spoke to were like, "Oh, that's a great company. They treat their people well." So it
Mm.
kind of like just aligned it for us. And we're like, okay, so let's keep listening. And so I think, that's the nearest example I can think of.
That's perfect.
How do you feel that you are with a longevity of experience being married? How are you preparing your kids so that they too can kind of take that with them, and the lessons you've already learned, take those with them going forward, especially with your oldest being 18 and a full-fledged adult technically, like
Yes.
when that happens for them, what is it that you're trying to instill, or what do you hope that they're going to learn from, everything you've been through?
First of all, it's very important when they are thinking of dating somebody or when they're dating somebody to look at several things. First of all, like your interest, your taste, your opinion on finances.
Hmm.
Do you feel you can trust this person? And I don't mean just like if they're gonna cheat on you type of trust. I mean like can you trust them to make the best decision for you guys, not just themselves, but you together. And actually, just recently, my husband and I went through a very difficult moment. Like, it totally caught me off guard because, we've been in such a good place for a couple of years now. And something that really made me think once again, like, do I stay? And my kids they're older now, especially the two teenagers. So they were like, I don't know, can you stay with him? Like, are you sure? And, it took several days thinking, praying. My faith has changed also. So my prayer is different, for me and for us. And it was just such a heavy load for me. And I prayed to God, like, please take this off my shoulders. I can't make this decision. And then, see, I know I was going to need tissues.
No.
Then I feel God started softening my heart because the anger started dissipating and I just started seeing his better qualities, so much more. Usually that's not me because I said I'm stubborn. So usually I can hang on but it just felt like it started melting away. And then my son, I want to say I would like his faith to be stronger. I would say from all of us, he's the one that it's still challenging for him. And we had conversations, because they were very aware of what was going on. And he said to me, and even though he was upset as well with his dad, but he said to me, Mommy, we're not perfect. The only perfect person on this earth was Jesus. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that to me was like, oh my gosh, wow. And for him to tell me that, usually he's not the one that looks at faith like that. And for him to say that. And so I just started talking to the kids and saying, it's hard. Like it's not, you can't just walk away. He's a good person. He's a good dad. You do have to sometimes work it out. And yes, he hurt me, but it wasn't something that I felt was enough for me to tear up our family. I felt like his good qualities outweighed what he had done that hurt me. And then we also let the kids know we started counseling just to help us, especially so I don't like hold a grudge, to help me work through that. So, that they know you don't just give up. You don't just walk away. Like you try to work things out.
Yeah, I think especially, the teaching, this is not full circle. This is not a fairy tale. This is not you fall in love and that's it. Happily ever after, close of the book. Like it is
Work.
hard. It will be work. And what I think, Brie, I don't know if you said that in a previous episode we were talking, it was something like, I love you, but I don't like you right now. You better
Yes.
run away. You better leave because I do not like you right now.
Yes.
I love you. How, like, working through that and leaning into God. And I love, the asking for a softened heart. That's
Yes.
probably the best lesson that you can teach and say, it will be okay. God has a plan. But wow, yeah, thank you.
It's a reminder of the greatest commandment, and that is to love. Love your neighbor as yourself, and your number one neighbor is your mate. So it's a good reminder to look for the best when everything is a little cloudy.
Yes.
Still try to find the best in them because again, there is a reason why you made that leap, right?
Okay.
We've spent this whole episode talking about functioning, and it isn't the same as necessarily thriving, but it also applies to your business. If you're a small business owner and you're still hiding behind some stock photos or those blurry selfies because you're kind of overwhelmed by the idea of that big production, I have something for you.
That's where D Grown Small Business Partnership comes in. This isn't just a one and done photo shoot. It's a true partnership designed to take the branding weight off of your shoulders so you can actually focus on the work you've been called to do.
See, I created this specifically for the entrepreneur who's ready to level up their visual presence without the burnout. We work together, creating a consistent high-end look that tells your unique story, whether it's through branding sessions or content creation or lifestyle imagery that really converts.
It's about showing up professionally and authentically so your dream clients can finally see the heart behind the brand. You don't have to figure it out as the aesthetic on your own anymore.
If you're ready to stop DIYing your brand and start showing up as the CEO you are, head over to dgarone.com/branding.
And that is dgarone.com/branding. Let's stop just getting by with our visuals and start building a legacy that reflects your excellence. So, Lena, we have to do a TikTok. That's one of our favorites. So I'm going to show you this TikTok real quick.
This is why we see a lot of people just coexisting in relationships. Now, they may not legally divorce, but they're divorced in heart. They're divorced in mind and spirit when it comes to their marriage because they're not operating in the purpose of it. They never took time to seek God's wisdom on what is the purpose for my marriage? What does God need for us together to come together that he can use to expand the kingdom of God?
So, did you ever feel like you found that purpose in the 25 years? Because, yeah, I'm not praying for the right thing. I don't think I don't know what the purpose is yet. I know I haven't figured that one out yet. So that's a great one for me to add to my prayer list. But do you know what that is?
So in my thoughts, and I try to make sure that I'm not listening to my own voice, but listening to God's. Originally, I believe that it's to be a family, be a source of protection and love for kids that need it, right? That don't have that. So when we initially had the conversation on kids, it was, hey, are you open to adoption and all of that? And it was a yes. So I think God put that on our hearts early as our purpose. Now, of course, as we evolve, I'm sure it's going to change because we're just 3 years in, right? So I think at this time, that's our purpose. What about you, Lena?
You know, I've never thought about it that way. I've always thought about, I guess, following the role, falling in love, getting married, having kids. That was my dream, but I didn't really think of it beyond that. I mean, we do have goals. If we were able to, we would love to help kids or animals. I'm an animal lover too. I've never really thought of it together, but that is a great goal. I think I am going to start praying for that because I actually, I don't know if Dee mentioned it, but I'm going to start a group for women that are having difficulty with fertility because I actually had difficulty becoming pregnant. And so just recently I found like my purpose, like 20 years later. At the time I was going through something so difficult, and I didn't feel like I had any support. So now I'm like, okay, like now I get it. Like I went through that and now I can help others. But now I'm going to start praying for something for us together. So thank you for putting
Yeah,
that.
and it's one of those that everyone automatically thinks of, what is my purpose and how
Yes.
is it that my path is going to accomplish what God is looking for? But he put you on the same path as someone else for a reason. What is
Yes.
that? What's that reason? So I know it, right? You know that we're supposed to be together and accomplishing life together. But yeah, I never thought about it like that. I appreciate your TikToks.
Yes. Thank you.
Incredible. Lena, thank you for being our avenue mentor today. I feel like we could just sit here for like 5 more hours and only like scratch the surface of especially 25 years. Congratulations. Also,
Yes.
side note, I hear you're going on an incredibly and very much deserved vacation finally.
Yes.
Where are you
It's the
going?
first time taking a cruise, taking any vacation without the kids, because since I had a hard time getting pregnant, I never wanted to be without them. But he has asked me many times to just take a trip with him, that he needs my attention. So after we were going to do it at 20 years and I chickened out. So now it's done. It's booked. Just the two of us. Yes. But I made sure to get the Wi-Fi package so I can still call and check on my kids.
Oh, but you're not going to be on like FaceTime all day. You're going to shut it down.
We'll check
No,
in.
I'm excited too because after we dated for 5 years, then we were married for 5, almost 6 years before having kids. So it's been a long time since it was just us.
Yes. A good reset. I like that.
Yes.
Well, again, Lena, yes, thank you. We really appreciate your insight. And next week, it's just the two of us. We're celebrating the Feast of Ascension and getting into a debate on traditional versus non-traditional wife roles.
Yeah, especially after this conversation, we've got that's the next step. What are our roles? We're looking at scripture, the modern world, and what actually works for our homes, our specific homes. It might get a little intense. So you don't want to miss it.
Yes. And please, please, please follow us on all socials at Different by Avenue.
Another day, another walk, keeping faith in the stride. No matter where the avenue goes, he's the one to always provide. From the dirt to the grace, you gotta keep the faith. Trust the spirit and the truth. Yeah. Because God will never lose. See you next time. We got a way you do it. Yeah, you did it. Yeah, you did it. When the road got rock, you pulled up to it. You always do it. Yeah, you did it. Yeah, we got a way you do it. Yeah. It's on a Different by Avenue.